I'm Jeff Fritz with SoundStage.com, and I'm joined today by Anders Ertzeid, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Hegel Music Systems, based out of Norway. Anders, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, doing fantastic. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, of course, Hegel Music Systems products, but specifically the integrated amplifier. And of course, you guys include DACs in your integrated amplifiers. It's become quite a niche for you guys. It's a huge product genre. I think we probably at SoundStage review more integrated amplifiers than any other product of any type, maybe with the exception of loudspeakers, but it's right in there. So can you tell me how Hegel found such a niche in integrated amplifiers, and what do you guys do that's so special in those products?
Well, I think one of the things you have to take into consideration is where we're coming from. I mean, we're coming from the cold north, and up in Scandinavia, where I'm from, the hi-fi business is very strong because people spend a lot of time indoors, and that might also be the reasons why you have hi-fi stores in the high street. You have some customers that are less audiophile than in many other countries. I mean, we are selling through a store chain in Scandinavia that has 86 stores for a
Wow.
population of about 20 million, which is insane. And then you meet different kind of people, and we early on saw that the guys that weren't so audiophile, they wanted integrated amps even in the early 2000s. So we came from a different background. That might have something to do with it, I think.
So, that raises a couple of interesting points, that number of stores for that population. So what I hear you saying is that Hegel products are really widely available within your country.
Yeah.
And so I guess that would mean that they found quite a market amongst, for lack of a better way to put it, regular everyday people instead of your really hardcore audiophile enthusiasts. So what features do you find are important to that crowd? I know you guys are very careful with what you put into your products in terms of features. It's not like an audio video receiver where there's everything in the kitchen sink included. You guys are very specific about what you include, and they tend to be extremely useful features. But how do you guys decide what to put in and what to leave out?
That is a very difficult thing. And actually, the formula that R&D uses, the name they call it includes a few curse words, so I'll try to stay away from that. But it's it's basically you're thinking about trying to put yourself in the end user's situation, right? That's what we're talking about, and we're looking at families. It's not always just the audiophile, be it a man or a woman in the family, who uses the system. We're thinking about how is the family going to use it, everyone. And then you're picking things that you'd want to include for these people, but then you have to weigh that against how difficult is it going to be and how many resources is it going to require. And also, can we add something? I mean, right, could we do something with AirPlay? That was one of the first, streaming things we did.
Right.
We added AirPlay, and it took a while because in the beginning, we could have AirPlay, but AirPlay would be the same as if you bought an Airport Express at the time. So we wouldn't add anything. So it's a weighing, what you want, how many resources does it require, and what do we actually have to offer as an extra. If we
Okay.
can't add anything, it's meaningless, right?
Yeah, and you touched on something else, your implementation of these features. Typically when, one of our reviewers gets a Hegel product, what they find is that the ergonomics, the features are good, but it's really the sound quality that sets it apart. So I'm assuming, and not just really assuming, I've heard you guys talk about this before, but the features have to be implemented in a way that enhances the sound quality. It's not just an add-on that may in some cases actually detract from the sound quality. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. Sound performance trumps everything. And if it, as you say, it reduces the sound performance, adding a feature, we won't have it. And there's been numerous examples of that through the years, like way back when with different USB things, with we struggled a while with MQA and other things, but we wanted to give an absolute added performance. And I think one of the things that leads us into different conclusions than somebody else, there's no right or wrong here, but we sometimes end up with a different conclusion, is that we never look really at what other manufacturers do. We just sit and discuss how we think people would want to use it and where we could add something, and then we do that. Because I think if you stare yourself blind at what others do, you tend to everybody just run in the same direction. I think it's okay to run in a different direction sometimes. That might bring you forward, or it might also bring you to a dead end, which also happens.
Well, and certainly that direction has led you guys into a family of integrated amplifiers that is, you guys really have something for everyone, from your more entry level products, which I know we just reviewed the new H95, which I'm sure is going to be a huge seller, right on up to the top of the line products, which are, $10,000 plus integrated amplifier. So, you guys do have something for almost everyone. But my next question for you is, I know that you guys still make separates, and the prices, when you're putting together a separate system of power amplifier, preamplifier, separate DAC, the prices go up even more. How do you advise a customer, or when would you advise a customer that a separate space system based on Hegel components is actually preferable to an integrated solution?
Well, that is a good question. And I think when we launched our premium integrated amplifier 2 years ago in 2018, the H590, which is $11,500 US, you were really, pushing the boundaries of when it's reasonable to make it an integrated amplifier. And we had to take a lot of steps to ensure that we protected performance at that price point. Because that is when you start to really benefit from having separate cabinets, completely separate power supplies, to have the different sections of the system interfering less with one another. So I think above the H590, even if we would want to make an even more expensive integrated amplifiers and the market is asking for it, I'm not certain it would be the right thing. I think perhaps even if it would lift the price further going into separates, because you have to pay for the casing, you have to pay for the shipping and all of this, it would be the reasonable thing to do if we want to push it further. Okay. So I think you're right at that point. You're meeting the ceiling of what makes sense for an integrated.
Okay. Well, you guys have been super successful, excuse me, with that product genre, and we look forward to more of those products as time goes on. Well, Anders, I do have one more question for you. What has been your favorite recent listening experience? I think most of the audiophiles that I've talked to over the past few months, we've all listened a little bit more because we've been confined to our homes a little more, and that has led to a lot of musical discovery that I've found for myself, and hearing other people speak on that subject. But what has been your favorite listening experience in the past few months?
Well, the cool thing for me has been that, I used to travel 50-60% of my time everywhere, and you go and do demos and you have your playlist. And over the years, they remain fairly constant. You add a few songs, you take away a couple every now and then. But now that I've been confined to my home for half a year, I've gone through everything again, and I rediscovered a whole lot of music. And I still have to say, I've said it too many times now, perhaps. But one of the things I come back to quite often is forgive me, but Kanye West.
Okay.
It's a different thing, but some of his older recordings even are actually really, really good when played back on a good system. And if you manage, I know it's difficult, to look away from all his tweets out of Montana or Wyoming or wherever it is right now, some of it is actually quite strong. But I'll tell you, the most phenomenal listening experience I had was actually going through my old vinyl on our small H95 amplifier and a pair of B&W 705 S2 bookshelf speakers. And it sounded absolutely fantastic. And we were 2-3 guys who just sat here and listened through old David Bowie and all kinds of things. And it was just magical for a system that would be around between 4,000 and 5,000 US, which is fairly inexpensive, but the musicality was just incredible.
Well, I think you've just really hit the nail on the head for a lot of the SoundStage readers. You know, $4,000 to $5,000, a complete music system, vinyl. Yep. You know, you've really framed that perfectly. I think that's exactly the type of system that a lot of people are looking for, and is certainly something that you can get very, very high quality from without spending, a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah, it was actually one of the funnier experiments I did this summer. Was I decided let's we have a fixed system here in the demo room with Kef Blade 2 loudspeakers and our big amps and all that, and we use it a lot. But then one day I just tore it all down and I thought, let's see, what can we do if I take one of our smaller bookshelf B&Ws and I spend a day or two setting them up, measuring, listening, testing, going back and forth, tweaking the room a little bit, and the performance you can get out of such a system. I think there would be around $2,500 for the pair, and then our amp was $2,000 for the pair, and then a couple of $100 in cables and tweaking and management. It's fantastic. Yeah. It's really good.
Well, Anders, on that note, I really do appreciate you joining me today, and I'm hoping that you give some of our viewers some inspiration to set up such a system. I think that's it's good tonic in times like these to have a setup like that and to be able to enjoy music. So thank you again for joining me, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much for having me, and have a great day.
You too.